Hurricane Helene was an attack caused by weather manipulation, claimed a video shared by Trump's ex-advisor Michael Flynn. Yes, they can control the weather. It's ridiculous for anyone to lie and say it can't be done. And this is what Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene wrote on X. Do they actually believe you can just heat up the air over the Atlantic or warm the ocean water, causing it to evaporate like crazy and boom, hurricane? Really? Are hurricanes capable of becoming military weapons of mass destruction? And is there any chance a powerful climate weapon could stop the Russian-Ukrainian war? Let's break it down. You might be surprised to learn that even the most powerful hurricane of the last 100 years works very simply. Cold, dry air meets warm, humid air, and the inferno that recently raged in Florida begins. This mechanism for creating disaster has always attracted the attention of the military. Vice Admiral William Rayburn predicted that the list of weapons would eventually include storms to disrupt enemy communications, weather control to favor military attack, and even icebergs. Has this become a reality? Some hotheads believe that the HAARP scientific complex in Alaska is one of the variants of such a climate weapon, saying that HAARP radiation warms the atmosphere and provides the desired effect. By the way, according to the scientific journal Universe Space Tech, there are similar complexes in Russia and even Ukraine near the front line. HAARP's 13-hectare antenna field is undoubtedly impressive. However, all 180 phased antenna arrays on the complex's territory interact with the ionosphere, so the atmosphere where hurricanes are born is transparent to them. Moreover, the power of 3.6 megawatts is obviously not enough to heat the air over a large area and cause a hurricane. 3.6 megawatts is less than a low-power lightning flash. But this does not mean that the military cannot influence the weather. For example, from March 1967 to July 1972, the US military conducted Operation Popeye. And no, this is not a joke about Sailor Popeye, but the actual name of the operation. The essence was to seed the clouds with particles of lead iodide and silver iodide to provoke rain. The monsoon season was reportedly extended by 30 to 45 days in the targeted areas. The rain fell over North Vietnam and Laos, particularly over the Ho Chi Minh Trail, used to move soldiers and supplies from North Vietnam to South Vietnam. However, all weather modification for military purposes was ordered to stop. In 1977, the United Nations banned all military use of environmental modification techniques. However, the peaceful use of such technology continues. Between July and August 2010, scientists in Abu Dhabi created 50 artificial rainstorms near Al Ain, which borders Oman. They used giant ionizers to develop fields of negatively charged particles that created clouds in a clear, cloudless sky. Some of these artificial rainstorms were accompanied by lightning, hail, and wind gusts, but the most significant projects are being implemented in China. China has been launching rockets and projectiles with iodide for years to neutralize sandstorms, reduce hail, and alleviate drought. Now, their goal is to make it rain over an area of more than 2 million square miles. That's more than half the size of the United States. Thumbs up if these projects also remind you of climate weapons. Now imagine how manipulating the weather can affect warfare. Let's take the real war in Ukraine as an example. So, cloud seeding works on the following principle. Iodide attracts water droplets. This changes the shape of the clouds and increases the likelihood of rain. Rains make the Ukrainian steppe and fields impassable for heavy machinery. That's why, in February 2022, the Russian army could not maneuver off the asphalt highway. But in summer, without rain, the steppe and fields harden. Even heavy tanks can move off the roads. These circumstances likely contributed significantly to the successful counteroffensive of the Ukrainian army in eastern and southern Ukraine in the summer of 2022. When more than 300 settlements and 1,500 square miles of territory were liberated. Had it not been for the dry weather, the outcome of that counteroffensive could have been worse. However, no verified evidence exists that the Ukrainian or Russian armies used cloud seeding technology. This is unlikely to be due to the UN ban. Perhaps this measure may not produce the expected result, while army commanders want a reliable tool. That may be why the Russian army thwarted Ukraine's counteroffensive in the summer of 2023 in another way, allowing nature to complete the destructive work. Here's how it happened. In the summer of 2023, the Kakhovka hydroelectric dam remained the only dry route for transferring Ukrainian troops across the Dnipro River for a counteroffensive in the south. The Ukrainian army had already taken control of the islands in the Dnipro Strait up to the outskirts of Oleshki town, which has direct access to the highway to Crimea. All that remained was to take control of the hydroelectric power station and move equipment to develop a counteroffensive. The situation of the Russian army was difficult, but on the morning of June 6, 2023, there were reports that the dam had been destroyed. The Norwegian seismic system, NORSAR, recorded fluctuations of 1 to 2 points in the coordinates that coincide with the location of Kakhovka HPP. However, it was not an earthquake, but an explosion organized by Russia, since it was Russia that controlled the Kakhovka HPP at the time and had previously mined it, committing another war crime. If your goal is to destroy the dam itself, you need a big explosion, said Michael W. West, a geotechnical engineer and expert in dam safety and failure analysis. The gallery of the dam is the perfect place to set this explosive charge. Thus, the gallery became the Achilles heel of the Kakhovka Dam and, at the same time, the Achilles heel of the Ukrainian counteroffensive. A few minutes after the dam collapsed, wild streams of water rushed downstream and spread around the area. The Ukrainian counteroffensive on this front section became impossible, and the Russian army was given several months to strengthen its positions. The environmental and economic consequences of destroying the Kakhovka Dam will haunt Ukraine for many years, but we have seen that the Russian military is able to use the destructive power of nature to achieve its goals despite UN bans, condemnations from other countries, and the fact that it is once again violating international law. Does the United States have such an Achilles heel? Yes. It is the Juan de Fuca Plate on the west coast. It is a geographical anomaly. This region is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, the boundary where one lithospheric plate goes under another and sinks into the Earth's mantle at a rate of 3 to 4 inches per year. The interaction of the crustal plates results in active volcanism and strong earthquakes that cause tsunamis. The tension between the lithospheric plates accumulates over 300 to 500 years, and then an earthquake occurs. The last earthquake in 1700, triggered by the Juan de Fuca Plate movement, turned the west coast into a deserted area. The first American settlers came here after this tragedy. That is why the mega earthquake is known only from Native American folktales. That is, the process of accumulation of the destructive energy of the Juan de Fuca Plate is underway. However, a powerful explosion can trigger a chain of events of incredible proportions. For example, a thermonuclear blast can release accumulated energy at depth. Under certain conditions, a thermonuclear explosion can cause a tsunami, 1,500 feet high. This is enough to practically destroy the entire coastal infrastructure, from the coastline to the nearest ridge. If the epicenter of the thermonuclear explosion is the Juan de Fuca lithospheric plate, then in addition to the tsunami, a catastrophic earthquake with a magnitude of more than 12 points will occur, which can change the relief far from the hypocenter. Predicting the consequences and modeling the possible destruction is almost impossible in this case. But how would a thermonuclear charge end up at depth off the coast of the United States? Imagine being on a serene seashore and suddenly learning that a catastrophic tsunami is imminent. However, this is not an ordinary tsunami, but a mega tsunami. In January 2023, the Russian news agency TASS reported that Russia allegedly produced the first set of long-range nuclear torpedoes known as Poseidon. Strategic experts warned that a Poseidon torpedo could destroy a coastal city, cause radioactive floods, and lead to millions of deaths. Poseidon, also known in the US as Canyon, Ocean Multipurpose System, and Status 6, was introduced to the Russian Navy in 2015 and reportedly first tested in November 2016. Essentially, it is a hybrid of a nuclear-powered torpedo and a nuclear-powered underwater drone equipped with nuclear weapons. Poseidon is designed to be launched from submarines. Poseidon can reach an unprecedented speed of 100 knots, operate at a depth of 3,280 feet, and have a range of about 5,400 nautical miles. But the main thing is the payload of this devil. According to preliminary data, a nuclear warhead can have a yield of up to 100 megatons. For comparison, The Russian Tsar Bomba, the most powerful nuclear weapon ever tested, had an explosive yield of about 50 megatons. A blast from Poseidon at a tectonic plate tension point could cause a series of earthquakes and then a tsunami of unforeseen power. Incredible. But we can be reassured by two things. Firstly, Poseidon is not yet in service with Russia. It is expected to appear in 2027. And secondly, this doomsday weapon may turn out to be fiction and a product of Russian propaganda. But this isn't certain. We are interested in your opinion on this matter. Please share it in the comments.